will be provided as a separate mailing and be acted upon on the next scheduled meeting. The first order of business that we have is the Lutheran Forest update, the status of the outstanding loan with the Saratoga County IDA. I've invited Tom Rowan to join us in the meeting. He's been the chairman or president of Lutheran Forest Park for a number of years. He's appeared before our board regarding the status of Lutheran Forest. And Tom, if you could just give us an update as to what the Lutheran Forest is looking at in the coming year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the IDA and others. We're very excited of the partnership with the IDA and their willingness to invest in infrastructure and land in the park, which will get us closer to being truly shovel-ready. As you all know, with our partnership with MRFA and water has been extended, sewer has been extended, electrical has been extended, and the National Grid subcontractor is on site right now extending natural gas. This process has been much more complicated, I think, than any of us thought, really because although everybody likes the idea of shovel-ready, it's hard for the utilities to gauge what the use will be down the road. So they're not anxious to put in a stainless steel high-pressure gas line when they don't know what the user's going to be. And sometimes people use more than they say they were going to. Sometimes they use a lot less, and they just want to have extra. So it's been an uphill battle, but we appreciate IDA's patience as our partners at MRFA have invested in a lot of unseen infrastructure because, of course, it's all buried. So we hope that closing will happen in the next 2 to 4 weeks. You know, there's always the details and the crunch towards the end, as all the attorneys on the phone can tell you. So toward that end, you know, before I was on the Lutheran Forest Technology Campus board, you were kind enough to let them borrow money to help with different things and infrastructure that Lutheran Forest was tasked with to install. And unfortunately, we haven't had sold as much property as we thought we might have by now, so it has not been easy to pay you back as we would have hoped that we could. And so we're really asking for an extension, that we would continue to pay interest, obviously, on the outstanding balance, and as we get receipts, we would like to pay a percentage of that to you as we go forward. You know, in other words, if we sold a piece of property to Global Foundries or a subcontractor to Global Foundries, or you know, we've had a number of false starts with We've had a number of false starts with possible purchasers. We've gone down that road quite a ways, and in fact, IDA even hit the pause button on its own closing, its own transaction, as we all played these out. And of course, none of them led to a purchase. So that's kind of just a broad stroke of where we're at. I'm sure you have questions, so let me know.
I would like to do that for questions of time. To make it simple, we'll continue on an alphabetical list so we can keep some semblance of order. Andrea, do you have any questions of Tom?
Tom, you mentioned about as you sell off parcels and paying us back a portion of that. What percentage of your proceeds do you propose that you would pay to us to pay down on your loan?
Well, that's a good question, Andrea. Thank you. What I was hoping was that, you know, obviously our partnership is with the Empire State Development Corporation, and they require 66% of every dollar that we earn from the sale of property. So our hope was, out of the remaining balance from each closing, that we would give you 10%. So as an example, in the upcoming transaction, that would be approximately $25,000.
And what are you doing with the other 24%?
Well, we pay $95,000 in property taxes every year.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's our biggest carry. And we've been to court twice because we think we're a not-for-profit, but the Supreme Court doesn't agree. So there you go.
It would go into your operating account then.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's the only question I had, Rod.
Okay, thank you. Kevin? I'm good. Okay. How about Mike Mooney?
I'm sorry I joined a little late, so I'm not even sure what happened prior to me being on the meeting. So,
basically, Mike, we're talking about the loan loan that we have with Luther Forest. The principal balance is $400,000. The carry forward that we've had for probably 4 or 5 amendments since the loan was established. Luther Forest has been paying interest only in the amount of about $2,760 per year. And the ask is that we continue with that interest only, where then once Luther Forest has an opportunity to sell some properties, then a percentage of that, those proceeds, the net proceeds to Luther Forest, will then go to reducing the principal payment to us.
okay. I guess one question, our agreement that we have right now, does that spell out the terms that Tom just mentioned regarding the payback percentage-wise and so forth, and has in the past?
I think, Michael, that was my hope, that we could, because I think the previous agreements had a flat amount of principal which we were not able to pay, so that you were kind enough to amend it. So this is tied more into individual sales, so that it's, if we were to sell a bigger piece, you'd get more money. This purchase of the IDA is a big number, but a large percentage of it, of course, is infrastructure. So we don't get that money. That's money that was invested.
Okay. And that's what your ask is, 10%, payback 10% of each additional sale till your property's gone, or till the loan's paid off?
That's the proposal, yes, that we sent earlier. Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
Patrick Green. Yes. I got a couple of questions. Maybe a couple could be answered by Mike Toohey, but maybe Tom as well. Is this a demand loan or a term loan, Mike Toohey?
It's a loan that has specific times and dates, but has been repeatedly extended. So it is a term loan, but it is a term loan that has, we have worked with LFTC since 2010, when the $650,000 was originally loaned.
Okay. Tom, if looking at the projected numbers, I mean, I just got a hold of your financial statements and get some sense for how much money would be left over after this closing, after paying off the Empire State Development people, taxes, everything else. It looks like, from what I've been able to see, about $80,000. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't have a closing statement, Patrick. I didn't really look at it that way, but that's probably close.
Okay. So out of that $80,000 that you're requested, if the $80,000, I assume it's a fairly correct number, you would propose that we accept $8,000 of that amount?
I think in this particular transaction, when I proposed this payment, we suggested that we would pay $25,000 in this transaction.
And Tom, after paying that, assume just for the sake of argument that the IDA said yes to that, agreed to that.
Mm-hmm.
How much, what are you're facing another school tax bill very shortly. How do you propose to cover your expenses over the next 6 to 12 months? I mean, are sales or any other sales under contract or imminent?
Well, our income is we rent some property to D.A. Collins Construction, which they sublet to others for warehousing and staging on site. As an example, last year we got $95,000 in rent for that. You all may remember that battery storage facility that was installed by the substation that helps clean up the power, if you will. They pay us rent. We have a number of areas where we have stockpiled dirt from when the roads were put in and work is done that we sell off. We make between $13,000 and $25,000 a year doing that. We sell some timber every year, not unlike the Luther Forest companies, the Mackey family, and on average that's north of $10,000 a year. So we have a lot of little businesses that we do that help us keep everything going.
Are you projected to? Will you have enough money in your operating account and from that income you just mentioned to address all your expenses for that period? Let's say for the balance of the year and into the first half of 2021.
Yes, I believe so.
You're saying, yeah. Is that if you're able to, we're able to work something out with the IDA to the tune of keeping that additional $55,000.
Exactly.
Okay. In the arrangement with Empire State Development, the IDA has loaned Luther Tech Force people $400,000. We're not party to that, and I guess the question is, at a closing, why aren't we entitled to net out what we're owed? We've extended this loan numerous times and asked only for interest payments. Work with the Luther Force people, but it strikes me as a little bit inequitable that we're asked not to be paid back from our closing. In other words, we owe you $1.7 million. You owe us $400,000. Why not net that amount out and start at 1.3? We would owe you 1.3, and then Empire State Development gets its 67% of what's left after that.
Because there wouldn't be a closing. There's not enough money because a lot of money was spent in the ground, extending the electrical, extending the water, extending the sewer, extending the gas.
How much money?
What's that?
Now, how much money is so? Just follow me through on this. If there's $1.3 million, how much is owed? Forget about Empire State Development for the moment. Who is owed what from those proceeds?
Pat, I can answer that, and I'm not sure all the members know because we're getting into real numbers. This contract that was entered into in November of 2017 is for $1,681,660. The agreement says that Luther Forest will receive $770,000 for the acreage that is being purchased, and MRFA will receive $911,660 for the work that they've done with regard to the contract. So that's the division of the money. Mike, would you mind repeating that so Lori got it in the minutes? Yeah. The contract that was entered into in November of 2017 says that the amount that is owed is $1,681,660. That money is going to be divided between Luther Forest, who is the property owner, receiving 700. These are gross numbers. There can be adjustments, but 770,000. Murpha, who designed and created the infrastructure that I'm assuming we'll talk about this morning, is owed $911,660.
Okay. So if Murph is paid, again, follow me through in this one. If we netted out the monies we're owed, instead of paying you $1,660,000, we're going to pay you $1,260,000. Murph still gets paid in full, and there's $360,000 left to cover probably past due taxes and something else, and then imagine Empire State Development would want its portion. Why can't that be handled that way instead of leaving this out of $400,000? I mean, I know the answer. Empire State Development's going to say, no, we're not. We want basically out of the approximately 1.7. That's what we want. But how do we square that with what we're owed? It looks like the $400,000 that we've loaned in good faith. At 10% that was being proposed for going on out forever. We could be sitting there, being owed $400,000 while everybody else is getting paid, including the town of Malta where I live, and school taxes, everything else. But we're the ones who fronted the money, and we have to wait behind everybody else while we're paying almost $1.7 million. I'm having a difficult time with that, and that's the issue for me.
Well, Pat, this is Tom Rowan. We at Luther Forest Technology Campus had a lot of negotiations with Empire State Development Corporation to get where we are, and we are very pleased with how generous they were during this process. And you guys have been very generous. All of these things were done long before most of us were at the table, and we're just trying to do the very best we can. And I understand why you're looking at it the way you are, but the total number, once you take out the infrastructure and MRFA, and you take out what we have to pay ESBC, there isn't a lot of money. And I don't want to come to these meetings every year and ask for help. It's certainly not what I signed on for 9 years ago when I became chairman, but I think we've had a tremendous success with IDA and the town of Malta and others and the town of Stillwater in that Global Foundries, which originally was supposed to be 1,800 employees, is well over 3,000. And I think we have a real jewel here. We haven't found the right tenant to put in there, or the right owner. I mean, we could have sold out to warehousing and solar fields and all that kind of stuff a long time ago, but that's not what this was designed for. This was designed for high-paying tech jobs, and we fought the fight to keep this available for those kinds of things, and we're just asking for your help. I wish I could pay you. I really do. I have a lot better things to do than come to the IDA on my knees asking for assistance, but that's what I have to do. And I'm sorry that I am, and I just hope you guys will see your way clear to help us, because you've been great partners.
Well, Tom, speaking only for myself, I appreciate all the work you've done as a volunteer for the organization over the years, how much effort you put into it. But we're also showing up for meetings for the IDA as volunteers over the for many years. So we're all in this together as far as that part goes. Everybody's working hard, and I think my concern is not with all the effort you put in, and I certainly appreciate it, but what our obligations are as board members. And I think critical that we ask these questions and understand it completely before any decision is made. So that's the reason for the questions. And I don't have any more for the moment, but I'll turn it over to the other board members.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Tom Lewis.
Sure. Yeah, Tom, even though the IRS says that you're a not-for-profit, I am fairly sure you are not, pocketing a lot of money in this process. And I consider LFBC a not-for-profit. As I've said, every time the issue comes up for the IDA, that I see it's in our interest that LFTC succeeds. When you succeed, Saratoga County succeeds, and I think that's why all of us are on the IDA. I'm perfectly fine with the $25,000 offer, which is more than 10%. And I try to look at what at least I consider a big picture, which is if you paid us more than the 25%, what are we going to do with the money? I mean, we're actually considering, giving away money, out of the new rules that the governor allowed us to do. I keep it short. I think, we should thank you for your volunteer efforts as a not-for-profit, accept the good faith that you're offering more than 10% at the $25,000. Those are my thoughts.
Can I ask
Tom
another question?
Andrew, let me come back to you. Let me get Walt's input.
Oh, I'm sorry, Walt. Didn't mean to trump you.
Well, that's not a problem, Andrea. My question, Tom, is, okay, this loan that you currently have, it predates my time on the board. So I'm kind of put off by the fact that I'm asked to vote on this. But yeah, I don't, and maybe I do, but I don't think I do have all the information about the loan, how you're paying it back. I know that the one sheet came out from Jeff today because Pat asked for it. I don't think there's enough information. I mean, where's the summary sheet that kind of talks about the date that we loan you the money, how you're supposed to pay it back, and so forth? I understand it's a volunteer position, but I don't feel confident in voting on it because I don't know all the information.
Well, Walt, I can answer a little bit of that question. That loan was established. I've been on the board 13 years, and that loan was established prior to me getting on the board. So it does go way back, and we have to dig into the history of that. Mike Tui may have some insight into it, but the loan has been an ongoing calculation and an ongoing acceptance of our board until until properties were sold, we really didn't have any way of getting paid back that $400,000, and we went along with the board, the Luther board, to accommodate them so that they could go out and sell their property. One of the things that I would like to bring up about this is that in the next segment, before we take any action, Mike Tui and I will talk about the closing and the pending closing on the Luther Forest property, the 20 acres that we propose to purchase. And the reason for us to do that is basically to open up the park for shovel ready, and that's the goal that we had when we decided to buy the 20 acres to invest our monies into the park so that we can open the park up and advertise it as shovel ready, whether it be SCDC advertising the park, whether it's partnerships advertising the park, whether it's the town of Malta advertising the park, or anyone that has access to development properties. And so that's the reason why we did this in the first place, so that we could open up the park and help Luther Forest sell those properties. Now that we can advertise it as shovel ready, it's a big difference than when we started this thing off more than 13 years ago. But
I appreciate that, but you know that I understand about the shovel ready and all that. But, I mean, it's just I find it. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I understand the oral traditions that you're passing on, but when I came on the board 18 months ago, approximately, you know, there was no handout. I'm playing catch up all the time, and I do appreciate what Tom's doing, but I understand what the tech park is for. But I mean, I don't see the printouts of you know what they're asking for and so forth. I just don't see it.
okay, any other questions? Well,
No, that's all. Andrew, if you had a question, that's fine. Go ahead.
I do too when you're ready.
Tom, refresh my memory. How many acres do you guys own up there?
Over 700.
Okay, and how much are you under contract to sell now?
Just the 20.
Okay. Okay. I mean, as I recall, what we were informed about with regard to these loans, and I just tried looking through my file cabinet here at home. I couldn't put my hands on any of the papers. But Mike Suey could educate us on the, you know, the payment plans and how they were to pay us back. I don't have an issue with taking the $25,000 to apply to reduce the principal, but I would not agree to that every sale that goes forward we get 10%. I think we have to take it on a case-by-case basis, because if Tom's organization sells off something that's much larger and is sufficient to satisfy us, then I think we get satisfied. But I wouldn't commit to, after this deal moving forward, we agree to take 10% of whatever the net proceeds are to pay down our loan. Those are my thoughts.
Mike Mooney.
Yes, a couple things. Tom, you mentioned that LFTC had expenses relating to the utilities several times. Isn't that MRFA's role in this? What is LFT paying regarding utilities, and what is MRFA's 911 for then?
I think I'm sorry for the confusion, Mike. I guess I meant in the total, when you look at the total purchase price, where the money was going, that, you know, although the money's coming to LFTC, not all of it goes to LFTC. MRFA invested that money. We did not invest any money. We managed, you know, we spent some time working with National Grid and NYSERDA and the County Water Authority and the County Sewer District on the design and the inspections, all the things that you do every day. But our only out-of-pocket role was the bird dogging and working with those organizations on getting those 4 different things in place.
Gotcha. So of your net 770, what is that breakdown? 25 to us. Where does the rest go?
$514,000 goes to the state of New York, Empire State Development Corporation. We had a little environmental issue a couple years ago, and we owe CB&I Environmental and Infrastructure Inc. $70+ thousand. So, and of course we got tax bills and other things that will be coming throughout the year.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, I understand. The next thing is I kind of agree with Walt. A simple narrative that someone could put on one page would be very helpful. In other words, original loan, $650,000, X percentage, and the date. You know, then whatever's been paid off, whatever the new agreements were, and like Rod, this was before my time. And even just for a refresher, it seems like every couple years we're asked to do something to revise the loan. A narrative of that would be very helpful.
And this is Pat, I'd like to add to that, I think we're going to need some, at least a legal opinion on the delivery of the funds to Empire State Development. I mean, I still am struggling with this issue as to why they are able to, this is $500,000 of them out of the top line. And why can't we get it out? Why are they entitled to the 500? Empire State Development. At the same time, the very same government, New York State, has just instructed the IDAs to work with small not-for-profits and businesses in our county, and we could take that $400,000 to answer Tom Lewis's question and deliver it in accordance with the very same state that is that controls the Empire State Development entity. So the legislature wasn't only Cuomo; that's a law, amending the IDA law. That's the legislature and the government. And I think it wasn't the IRS that, at least just for the record, I think it was the Saratoga County Supreme Court that ruled against LSTC, not the IRS. Unless I misheard Tom Ruin. So I need to understand. I need to get answers to these questions too.
This is Tom Ruin. Empire State Development Corporation has a first lien on the property, so we have to get I can't think of the right word, but we have to get permission from them to sell. Release. Thank you, Michael. We have to get a release from them. I don't believe your note is a lien on the property. That's the difference. That's the primary difference.
This is an unsecured loan.
Jeff Media, can I just interject a little bit here? I do have the loan history in terms of payments. We were paid $50,000 in 2014, $100,000 in 2015, and another $100,000 in principal in 2016. So it was really, things kind of stopped after that. So that's kind of the history there in terms of the pay down of the original. This is Mike Tui. The loan was originally initiated on January 29, 2010.
Yep. And that original amount was $650. Those numbers don't quite add up.
Yes, they do. Yeah, Mike, this is Mike Valentine. The 650 predates everybody, going back to the time of SCIDA with Kenny Green and Jack. That came in as a grant, and it was converted to a loan later. All right, so the grants were actually 3 different grants issued, and then the agency came to agreement with SCDC that they would be converted into a loan, that they just didn't go on, that there was money lost. So just as Jeff Maney said, we had 2 payments in there, prepayments, $50,000, $100,000, $100,000, and if you go back to the June 2018 minutes, when the 6th extension or 6th agreement came about, that was the $400,000 principal within that 6th extension. That's where it stands at this point.
Oh, I believe he said 50, 50, and 100. 2014, 50, 20.
50, 100, and 100.
Got it.
When did the Empire State Development file? I don't know anything about the history of that lien being filed by Empire State Development. Does that predate our loan?
I believe it does, Pat. They were a source of a lot of grants for off-site electrical work and sewer work and everything to get all the utilities to the site that enabled Global Foundries to build there. So we thought that the original organization had thought or hoped they were going to be grants, and then they turned into a loan, and then ESDC decided to change their formula and agreed to let us be interest-free and just take 2/3 of the money we receive when we receive it before closing. You know, it would give us as part of the closing releases, if that makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions of Tom at this point?
The only other thing, the thing that was sent today from Jeff has the maturity date already passed. So whatever we do, we may have to address that issue.
Right.
Rob, this is Tom Lewis. Can I add something to what other people said after I spoke?
Sure. Go ahead.
When Andrea said that he's okay with the 25,000, but doing, you know, what comes after that on a case-by-case basis, I think that makes perfect sense. I would add, again, looking at how I see the totality of things, is the IDA going to benefit from making it more difficult for LFTC to function? Will Saratoga County benefit? What Pat Green said about the state, how come they're saying, okay, give away money to help businesses because of COVID, but they're taking 66%? Patrick, that's a home run. That solves a whole lot of this stuff. So, those are my comments on what was said after me.
Okay, any other comments at this point?
Rod, Stephanie, I just wanted to, maybe the one thing that would help us understand it better would be if Elizabeth Forrest gave us an updated financial report from time to time, and so we can understand where they're at. And I guess that's probably the only other thing I would say. It just helps, it might help the board see that information.
May I suggest this, is that maybe because to get the members up to speed as to the history of the loan, Mike Valentine, if you could maybe go back and dig out the history of the loan when it started, give us a synopsis of that loan, so that the members, and including myself, get up to speed as to how the loan originated, how it became, it started as a grant and now into a loan. And then we can analyze that, take a look at that, revisit the task of the $2,700 on the interest payments, and then we will discuss in the next segment here. We'll be talking about the closing for the 20 acres that the IDA has committed to. And then that way we can make our decisions based on information that is historical, and that we can then debate and talk about the merits of going forward, whether it be 10%, whether it be a percentage of any type of sale that the Elizabeth Forest has down the road, or even explore the idea of what Pat is suggesting, talking to the state of New York. But I would tend to think that we're not going to get far talking to the state of New York. I think the commitment that Elizabeth Forest has, and that 2/3 is probably something that we're not going to be able to adjust. So I think the reality is that Elizabeth Forest is going to be committed to those numbers that they've had over the past number of years. But that's my thought at this point. Anyone has any other thoughts or ideas, please express them now.
This is Walt Lynch. I think that's a great idea, Rod. And again, I go back to the fact that I have an understanding of it, but I would like to see. I mean, I don't think it's asking too much because we're talking a lot of money here. I don't think it's too much to produce a staff summary sheet that talks about the various things that have occurred with this loan, which go back a number of years. I don't see that as a problem. I really don't.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just when the percentage is established, we really have to know what it's based on, the total cost or the land. If it's just the land, that should certainly be spelled out very clearly.
What are you saying, Mike?
The 10% of the proceeds that we receive.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts or ideas on this proposal? Is that everyone in agreement to have a recap of the history, the loan history, and the grant history?
Well, Mr. Chairman, you didn't note that I was keeping abnormally and purposely quiet through the whole thing, did you?
I understand that, Mike, and I appreciate you not chiming in.
That's what the mute button's for, Mike.
What's that?
I said that's what the mute button is for.
Okay.
That's right. If we could, can we, well, I'm still on the phone, can we go to item number 2, the clarification of acreage involved with the IDH land purchase? Mike Tui and I have talked about this.
Hey Rod, I don't mean to interrupt, but before you move on, if indeed the maturity date has passed, we should probably discuss that quickly.
Yeah, I think it has. Maturity date was what, Jeff? Do you know?
July 31st.
July 31st?
Yeah, and that would be an interest payment. Yes.
Okay. I entertain a motion to extend the maturity date for argument's sake until maybe October, sometime in October, because I'm not sure what our agenda meetings might look like in September.
You're talking about extending the interest payment due?
The
maturity date.
Maturity date.
Oh, okay.
I showed the fifth event being July of 2017, but there must have been one after that.
The financial statement you sent today says July 31st, 2020.
Yeah, that was out of date. They don't have a current financial. So what is the maturity date right now? It's passed. It's passed. It's July. All right. Who's speaking?
Well, I would like this pack. I would like to just hold off on any decision on the extension of the maturity date of that note until we see all the other information. That's how I feel. We're not going to act on it, at least in the moment. So,
No, we're not. The only thing is that what's what I'm looking for. Is it okay to extend that date? I don't see any reason not to extend the date of construction purposes. Do we need a motion to do that? I don't think we do. I think you need a motion to do that, and Mike Mooney's suggestion is a good one. Mike, you want to make a proposal then?
Yeah, I'll make that motion to extend it till the end of October while these negotiations are going on.
Okay. Second.
I'll second.
Kevin, I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
yeah, put me down as a no on that one.
We'll have a roll call on that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Mike, the roll call, please.
All right, on resolution number 1464, how do you vote, Ms. DiDomenico?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Green?
No.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Mooney? Yes. All right, Mr. Collison? Yes. And Mr. Winch?
No.
And Chairman Sutton?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries by a vote of 5-2.
Mike, this is Scott. You guys might want to actually make a date in October rather than just saying October. If you just go the 31st or something like that.
Yeah, I put October 31 into the note. Yeah, I said the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's just item number 2 on the list before us, the clarification of the acreage involved in IDA and the land purchase. We need to put on record that the land that we thought we were buying was a 2.16, and in fact, after a reconfiguration, is now 2.0 acres that we are purchasing. Just to have this on the record, Mike Tui, if you'd like to explain.
No, Mr. Chair, are you going to go into whether or not we're going to execute or we're going to carry forward with this contract this month at some other part of this meeting, or do you want this?
Yes, I'd like to do that right now. Well, I'd like to do it right now, Mike.
Okay, then I'm going to avoid well, let me answer the question that you got. In the 2017 contract, the amount of acreage was 20.16 acres. Once we went to the town of Malta with regard to the subdivision of the property, it made more sense to make that acreage 20 acres, changing it by approximately 7,000 square feet over the 871,000 square feet that represents 20 acres. I want to have it clear within the record that the contract has been amended from 20.16 acres to 20 acres. That's what the title report reflects. That's what the subdivision reflects. But I was not sure that that was fully reflected in a minute of this board. So I would like to have a motion to that effect.
A motion, please.
I'll make a motion to revise the contract to reflect the changed acreage from 20.16 to 20 acres and give the chairman authorization to sign necessary documents.
A second, please.
Second, Kevin Collison.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. We're coming very close to the closing of the properties. I did attend a meeting earlier this week with MERPA, Lutheran Forest, and the only thing that was really left to be done was the gas installation. And we're looking to, like someone suggested earlier in the meeting, that we were looking to close within the next 2 to 4 weeks, if at all possible. What we have done and suggested, Mike Tui has suggested that we get the verification of the contract that we had signed back 4 years ago of what the infrastructure was to look like. And so we're getting that verification as we speak from the LA group to make sure that the contract is, the items on the contract are met to our favor. What we would like to do at this point too is authorize us to continue with the contract and take it to full closure, and that I don't know if we need a motion to approve the expenditure of those funds, but that's something, Mike, if you want to expand upon.
Okay, there's members of the agency that were not with us at the time of this contract So let me run this thing down quickly for you. The contract was entered into on November of 2017. The primary purpose was that the IDA has limited things that they can do with their money, but one of the things that we can do is buy and sell land and create infrastructure. As a result, the board decided to take an approximate 20-acre parcel of land that we would subdivide that was at the relative far end of the park and enter into an agreement whereby infrastructure would be extended to this acreage. What that did was open up the infrastructure for a significant portion of the rest of the park, and we could do this legally. Thus, we created a more shovel-ready park, which is consistent with our goal to create an environment in which jobs can be created. The purchase price, as I said before, was $1,681,660 divided $770,000 between LFTC and $911,660 between MRFA. There is a very specific provision in the contract that says MRFA, who is defined as a developer, will be responsible for obtaining and paying for all permits, work orders required for the construction and the installation of the infrastructure that is specifically listed. The developer shall be solely responsible for having the infrastructure accepted and approved by the necessary utilities or governmental entity. Then there is a listing of work that has to be done that we had created for when the contract was first entered into, and it says that MRFA as the developer shall construct and oversee the construction to the lot line of the premises of the following utilities, infrastructure, and services for a proposed office, research facility, manufacturing facility, and warehouse facility. And we are now in the process of having the fact that that infrastructure is in place and has been accepted by the entities that have to accept it, verified by the LA group. They have a lot of the information done, but they do not have it all done, and in fact some of the infrastructure continues to be installed literally as we speak. We have within the contract, once the infrastructure is incorporated into the ground and is at the boundary of the property, we have 30 days to close this transaction. So again, the purpose for this deal was to create an opportunity for the IDA to get infrastructure into that park because there was nobody else who was going to do that, and then to ultimately have a 20-acre parcel of land that at some point in the future can be developed. So as the chair, we're coming close to that, and the chair needs the authorization to expend the funds consistent with this contract and to execute the documentation that is necessary. I am concerned that if we don't have the resolution to the loan question, I'm not quite sure what we're supposed to do with Luther Forest's portion of this payment.
All right. We can table that until we get the information that was discussed and we can be provided.
You mean escrow it? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, we were talking about, Mike, earlier about the information, the narrative.
No, understand. So the proceeds of the closing, we escrow until we get a resolution on the loan? Just hold?
not legally tied together, ladies and gentlemen.
Why can't we just close and then work on the amended payment and see what
Well, one of the things, at least from my perspective, is we haven't even approached the economic development people yet. That is there any way we could work something else out here? We'd like more of these funds to go to Saratoga County rather than the state, the entire state. So we haven't even asked the question yet. I mean, you may be right, Rod, that they'll say absolutely not. We want our 2/3, but certainly we should consider an overture to whoever it is, maybe using our elected representatives as our supporting that effort. I don't know, but right now I feel comfortable approving, agreeing to provide authority to execute those contracts without having the knowledge that for the information that's been requested, or even making an overture, asking for a sit down with the state of New York.
Well, those are two entirely separate issues. And Pat, we could have our state representatives do that. That will take so long to just work through the process, besides which they're not going to change that.
Tom, can you say that to us?
That's a separate
Say that to us, Bertie. And I didn't ask for an extension for another 10 years. I did ask to table until we get the information. That's all. Of some reasonable period. And maybe that information can be provided within the next 3 days. I don't know. I need to look at it. I want to ask the questions. I want to understand for myself a little bit more about the transaction and what's being asked and how those proceeds are going to be distributed. I'm not asking for 10 years.
that by doing that we would be postponing the entire transaction of a closing until this is satisfied. Is that what you're asking?
No, what I'm asking is first for the information to be delivered. Maybe that's deliverable today, or within the next day or two. I at least want to satisfy myself that I understand this completely.
What's the best estimate of when the infrastructure is going to be done? When does the 30 days to close start?
Well,
Go ahead.
I had a conversation with the LA group yesterday. They're investigating it. There's infrastructure that will probably be installed in the next week or so, Mike. And we will have a verification as to what is done or not done. We do not know if everything on this list has been done. So the LA group is committed to give us that answer within the next week or so. So you, under the contract, you've got probably 35 weeks, I would say.
Yep. So we're talking early October anyways, probably.
I believe that to be true.
I would be really reluctant to delay the closing. We've been doing this now over 4 years. I think we should come to conclusion on this project. It's something that we've been talking about. It's been put on hold, as mentioned earlier, for a couple of years. I would hate to see the opportunity that we've worked so hard for, that we delay closing for this loan process with Route to 40.
I agree with we won't delay the closing, but it's not even ready to close yet. So we got a couple weeks before it's ready to close, and then the contract allows us 30 days. So we can have our September meeting. Clearly, we can get the narrative, all the history of that done before then, and it'll be fine.
There was a possibility of closing this within 2 to 3 weeks, and I'd hate to lose that opportunity.
Well, if they're not even done yet, and we have 30 days afterwards, we're not delaying the closing.
I'm not sure Mike, Mike Tilley, could you clarify what Teresa Skane has got to do in terms of reapplying to the state of New York for the closing process?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know what she has to go through to satisfy the state to obtain the release. But that's LFTC's responsibility, and I have no idea how to do that.
Well, Tom's on the call. Has that been done? Our draft's already done?
Yes, it has, Michael, but those, as you know, those releases are only for a period of time. So if we get into the second week of September, we'll obviously have to request another one.
Why? You're saying you already have the release, or you don't?
We do. We do.
And how long is that release good for?
Till the end of August, beginning of September. They let us. They have. They're not. They have been flexible for 4 or 5 days in the past. In other words, if it was good till August 31st, if we close that week, that works for them. They've been.
So what Mike just said in the contract is not consistent with what you're talking about. That we have 30 days after the infrastructure is there.
Well, the banking and the contract are separate. In other words, what our commitments we make to ESDC are not necessarily tied to the contract.
Seems like they should be.
Well,
Mike Mooney, paragraph 8, first sentence of the contract, transfer of title is to be completed within 30 days of substantial completion of the utility infrastructure. That's out of the contract. That's where the 30 days comes from.
Sure.
and I think we're not waiting for substantial completion. You're waiting for completion. Because
I'm waiting for compliance with the terms of the contract.
Right, but I'm just saying that substantial does not always mean you're making sure that everything is exactly correct, which is beyond substantial.
Right.
Which is, you're right. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that there's a difference.
Yeah, I think he was talking about acceptance of the utilities from outside agencies, et cetera.
If somebody could put that phone on mute. Whoever has the dog, if they could mute their phone, please. Whoever has the dog, could they please mute their phone, please?
Again, the issue is can the board authorize the chair to go ahead with the closing should that take place in the next 30 days?
I don't have a problem with it. I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
Kevin Tollefson, second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Walt Rich. I have a question. So, the purchase, like what Mike said, is it 30? Can we delay it, or is it as is right now? I walked through the building now with the dog barking and everything else. Sorry.
I missed your question, Walt. Would you repeat it, please?
Yes, I'll try to summarize it better because it was all over the place. Basically, can we do the closing in early October, or the contract says that it needs to be done by the end of August, early September? That's my question.
They
The contract does not give a specific date for the closing. It says it has to take place within 30 days of substantial completion of the infrastructure. And the contract itself gives very specific rules with regard to what the infrastructure is supposed to be.
Okay, Mike, so it's very specific, but I mean, does it talk about what substantial is, or what does it actually say?
Okay, and there is a addendum to the contract that says exactly what has to be in place with regard to the work that is done, having to do with water, waste disposal, electrical, gas, water, fiber optics, etc. That we need to have that verified that it is completed. That's from our point of view, and we know from the developer's point of view that that work has not been completed as of, at least as of a conversation I had yesterday with LFTC's attorney. So we have our people going on now to make sure that this work has been completed. Then at that point, once we've made that determination, we can have we have a 30-day window within the contract. So we need to have that determination as to completion of the infrastructure, and then we don't need to take 30 days. This isn't mandatory. We can take 2 days if we want. I'm just telling you what the outside figure is of the contract.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So who's going out there to make sure that who is representing the board that's going out there to make sure that the infrastructure is substantially complete?
We have hired the LA group to do that work.
Okay.
And they are on the job with regard to that. I've had conversations as recently as 2 conversations with them yesterday.
So they're reporting to you then, like, basically?
Yes. And I report to the board.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, we got to continue on, folks. The ask is basically let the chair and council continue on with the closing once the criteria has been met with Luther Forest and the infrastructure is verified by the LA group, so that we do not delay the closing any longer.
And you have a motion and a second on that.
We have a motion, a second, any further discussion?
Yes,
I'm still, this is Pat, I still understand why there's a delay in the closing by waiting until we have the information in front of us. I don't understand that. That resolution can be adopted and given you authority fairly quickly, within a week. I imagine when we schedule one more meeting for that specific purpose, and for us to be able to feel satisfied that we've asked all the correct questions and understand the information properly. I don't think we're delaying the closing.
Well, I have to agree with, this is Ron Lynch, I have to agree with Pat. I mean, the infrastructure, the LA group should report to Mike, and then Mike can just send an email to us saying it's been done. And then, like you said, it does not require it. We have 30 days, we don't have to take 30 days. I don't see a problem with that either.
You're saying 2 different things. You're talking 2 different things here between what you are saying and what Pat Green is saying.
Yeah.
Pat's talking about something else different.
Continue, Walt. Go ahead. Oh, that's fine. I understand the portion that I'm supposed to be responsible for. I think I understand. Again, I don't have the information right in front of me, but I think I understand.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? On the motion, Mike, would you give us a roll call then?
Sure, on the resolution, which will be number 1466, how do you vote, Ms. DiDomenico?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
No.
Mr. Lewis? Yes. Mr. Mooney? No. Mr. Tollison? Yes. Okay, Mr. Winch?
No.
And Chairman Sutton?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-3.
Thank you. Tom, thank you for your time. I'd like to go on to the next part of our agenda, the IDA PPE grant, the cover letter, and grant application process.
Mr. Chairman, I just thank you guys for being so generous with your time, and I know Mr. Toohey and Mr. Duffy and Mr. Valentine will probably be in touch with us for certain information, so we'll be as responsive as we can. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Tom.
Ben.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I have to sign off. I have to leave to get to my office for a 10 o'clock appointment.
Okay.
My only, Rod, if you don't mind if I jump in, my only question on the IDA grant application is, do you think you should have a question on there with regard to the applicant disclosing whether or not they have any family relationship, or they work for the county of Saratoga, or they have any family members who are a member of the IDA, something similar to what we fill out for that ethics affidavit every year for the county of Saratoga?
Repeat that again, Andrea, I'm sorry.
The application that we have for the grant application,
Okay.
do you think it's advisable that we have a question on there as to whether or not the applicant is related or has any business relationship with any members of the IDA or are employed by the county of Saratoga? You know,
Well,
similar to the type of questions that we are asked by the county of Saratoga on their ethics form.
Right, well, we certainly can incorporate that. I don't know if that's relevant to the grant, but it is open-ended. It's something that we'll discuss during the course of this next segment of our agenda. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I gotta sign off, guys. I gotta get to the office.
Thank you.
right,
The
thanks,
IDA
gentlemen.
grant
Be safe. Bye-bye.
cover letter and grant application process. We sent a cover letter out, and the grant application was marked up from Pat's point of view. We did not translate that. It was difficult for me to read, but we would like to, at the last meeting, we agreed upon allowing grants, and we have allocated $250,000 towards the grant program, and that we would be revising the cover letter and the application, and we're in the process of doing that now. And as soon as that gets completed, everyone satisfied, we will send that out to everyone. Any further edit, as soon as we get that approved, then we will go live, put it on our website, then we'll get it into the news media as well. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts any further on that letter and or the application process?
Rod,
It's Pat. Just housekeeping. Is there any way that could be delivered in Word format? So I know my markup was probably illegible, but they're primarily, the comments were to make it applicable and easy for any of the different types of entities that would be completing the application. So if that's available in Word, I can provide my suggestions that way.
So Pat,
Scott, can you do that?
yeah, Pat, this is Scott. In everybody's invitation to this meeting, if you go to your calendar and click on it, you're going to see all the documents that are related to the discussions and bullet points here, and it is in Word, Pat. Both the guidance and parameters for the program and the application itself is in Word. Now, I told Mike Toohey last week when I was finishing up, and with Mike Mooney's help, he converted the original PDF into a Word doc. There's one page that's blank, and I just need to administratively, edit that out. But the comments that Mike Mooney had originally discussed, along with some discussions with other board members, have been done. The only ones that aren't there, Pat, are your markups that you sent out the other day. If you want to take a look at this Word doc and do that there, because I couldn't read your writing, Pat. I'm sorry. I was trying to. I couldn't read it, but those documents are there for all board members. They're right on the invitation on your calendar for this meeting. And if you want to mark that up, we'll call that a final, Pat, and we'll send it around to the board for approval, and then we will post it on our website, and from that point, folks, we'll be live with the grant program.
Okay.
And we'll accept applications, at our next meeting.
Any questions? I do. This is Ron. I have Ron Lynch. This is Ron Lynch. I have one question. I should know the answer to this, but I don't. I said, what is a DBA? Delta Bravo Alpha. What is that?
Doing business as.
Doing business as. Doing business as.
Oh, yeah.
It might be Mike Tui doing business as Snyder, Kiley, Tui, Corbin, and Cox.
Okay. Got it.
It's Kevin Tollison. I just, when this is final, I expect it'll be sent to the board first, but secondly, if the Board of Supervisors wants a little bit of maybe a little presentation or something in their Economic Development Committee, you would be okay with doing that if I offered that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
I think it's just such a good thing for our county that maybe the Board of Supervisors would want you to come in and just tout that as part of the IDA.
Yeah, no, that's never a problem. Whenever the committee, the Economic Development Committee, would like to meet and meet with any one of us from the IDA, we're willing to sit down and come to your meeting. So,
Thanks.
that's the way we've worked at it in the past, and we would be happy to attend one of your meetings if asked.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Cortec, Mike Valentine, quickly.
Mike, you want me to take this?
Sure, Mike. I mean, I've got it just to go through it, just as, the final resolution to bring us to the point where our cost seeker's done, bringing up the cost to match what we've had in our resolutions. I've talked, I'm not sure if you have, Mike, with Rob Cohen, the attorney for Hubschmidt on CTI. He's just moving forward. So, Mike, go ahead with that then.
We've already approved CTI Properties, which is on McCray Hill Road on Boston Spa. They are taking a 27,000 square foot facility and expanding it by 14,190 square feet. They are refinancing for the amount of $3,250,000. But our piece of this, having to do with new building and equipment, is only $2 million. So that's the exemption that they would get with regard to the mortgage tax, not the $3,250,000, the $2 million, so that we kept this in line with what the application was and with what the prior approval was of the board. And this would authorize the chair to execute the necessary documents to complete this transaction. You need a motion to do that.
Yeah, we do need to take that up as a resolution with the board, as its final resolution for this project to go forward with closing. I'll make that motion, Kevin.
Okay. We need a second.
Yes.
Mike Mooney, is that Mike? Who was it?
No, you asked the question, do we? And I said yes. We do.
Yeah, who was the second?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Mike Mooney, I'll second it.
That works. Yep. Mike Mooney. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chairman, sorry to interject. I'd like to do a roll call on that, Mr. Chairman.
Roll call.
All right. On resolution 1467, how do you vote, Mr. Green?
And again, can you read the resolution back? What?
This is just a Jim Carminucci final resolution
For Cortec.
for Cortec in Boston, in the town of Boston, to move forward with closing.
Okay.
The documents, these documents, guys, are right on your calendar. They're right in this invitation. So if you want to look at it, just click on it.
I recall now. Okay, there was a moment I wasn't listening, so I'm in favor.
Okay. Mr. Lou?
Yes.
Mr. Mooney? Yes. Mr. Powell? Yes. Mr. Wynn?
Yes.
Chairman Sutton?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. In the interest of time, let me, Tim Dunn has been sitting patiently. Can we skip to item number 7, the Chisholm County Prosperity Partnership, the request for IDA participation in study of liquid forest? Tim, I believe you're still here.
I am. Thank you, Chairman.
There has been a request. Just let me. We had a request from Shelby Snyder for Prosperity Partnership to take a look at a proposal for a consult on liquid forest to expand the park and take a look at the possibilities of extending the park to semiconductor businesses, and Shelby and a group of people have put together they went out and got a request for proposal to do a study of the park, and the ask is for the county IDA to participate in this study from a financial point of view. The other ask is the town of Malta, the town of Stillwater, CEG, SCDC, and so on. Tim, if you'd like, just give us your presentation.
Yes, and I apologize. I have to be very brief because I do have a 10 o'clock meeting that I'm leading. But what you should have a chance to look at there is, as we've discussed, obviously the Global Foundries in the Luther Forest Tech Park has been a wonderful addition to our economy. But many years later, we don't have the additional tenants in the park that we would like, and I think we all have some challenges financially with that, and from a business perspective. This year, the town of Malta went to several other stakeholders and said, "Hey, let's look at updating our approach to taking this real estate to the marketplace. Let's make sure we truly understand what this park can do and the types of tenants that it can outfit, so that we can ultimately create good jobs in the high-tech sector. We can fulfill the financial responsibilities that we all have, and we can ultimately continue to keep Saratoga moving forward as really the envy of upstate New York's economy." Prosperity Partnership, much to their credit, has put together this plan with that has a very significant and an impressive market study to look at the infrastructure, land, and demographics and marketplace to make sure that we're properly positioning the park for potential tenants, as well as this proposal specifically within the study also would develop models for potential tenants to understand what it would actually cost for them to come in and invest in the park, which is a really powerful tool in these high-tech businesses. This would also translate into, I call this a study with work boots, because it's actionable. The study is one part of the project, but this would also be carried over into new marketing material, a new marketing strategy and outreach, as well as sort of the boots on the ground, getting out there and beating the drum. So the total project is $250,000. The study component of it is about $180,000, give or take. Currently, the town of Malta has, in the past, we have not stepped up and put our money where our mouth is. We've certainly reaped the benefits of Global Foundries and Luther Forest Technology Campus and enjoyed a great partnership with the IDA and others around the area. But we thought it was important that if we're going to ask others to take part in trying to build for the future, that we need to invest ourselves. Well, we are budget limited, and someone mentioned earlier the town of Malta receives a lot of revenue from this project. We don't. We receive someone can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but without a local property tax in the town of Malta, we do not receive revenue from this project. But we do see the impact of positive job growth, and the region growing. This year we have committed $20,000 to this project to try to leverage financing. I believe the town of Stillwater has committed a significant amount of money as well. I don't want to speak on any of this, but
Yeah,
thank you, Shelby.
$10,000. No problem.
I believe Prosperity Partnership has also committed $20,000, so we already have 50 of the 250. Shelby has been working aggressively with National Grid and NYSEG for very large sums of money to be committed to this project. And at this time, we're asking for the IDA to join us in the support that we will all benefit from. Making the park more marketable and getting the word out there to prospective tenants is something that we will all benefit from, and I think something that will be important for all of us to take part in. With that,
And Tim, we are also going to get, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but New York State Electric and Gas is also, could do between $20,000 and $75,000. So.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, Tim. I know you have to leave, but just an overview from our perspective by the IDA. We are not quite sure that we can participate in a study and offer monies that we don't sponsor, and we are not the lead organization to authorize the study. This has been discussed with legal, and we'd have to take a real hard look at to see how much money, if at all, we would be able to participate in. It's something that we have to explore a little bit further. Right now, we are restricted by our rules, regulations that the IDAs have to adhere to. We're not quite sure that this would be something that we could participate in if we were not the lead agency. So I don't know. We're going to have to explore that further. But I just want to let that out before you leave our meeting.
I appreciate that, and I do have to jump. Shelby can certainly answer any questions, and I think we can certainly talk further. And I appreciate you giving me a few minutes today.
We appreciate you coming on meeting. Sorry it's been so long. But we will be back in touch. Shelby, do you have anything further to talk about?
No, I think that, we wanted to introduce this concept to the IDA. This is especially relevant given the fact that you're investing in property right now with the Luther Forest Technology Campus as well as contiguous areas. We are here to support your efforts. We're here to work with you. And, we wanted to bring in a collaborative team of partners who have been actively, over the past 20 years, working at marketing the Luther Forest Technology Campus to bring in experts to understand what the next wave of opportunity will be to come here. We know that there is a lot of effort at the federal level to incentivize in semiconductor manufacturing as well as supply chain, and we want to accelerate the process of bringing new investment into the park and the kind of high-tech jobs that everyone had been promised when this campus was developed 20 years ago. So we know this is the beginning of a conversation, and we're here to work with you in partnership.
Sure. Well, thank you. Anyone from our board have any questions of Shelby and the prospects of this study? Anyone? Shelby, what we will do then is we'll explore and we will ask legal to take an interpretation of what we can do in terms of offering any assistance to the study, and we will get back to you.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your consideration. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Go back to our agenda, number 5, Victory Mill.
Yeah, this is looking at, and this was passed out before and said that we would, the CEO got everybody's concurrence on this and just said that we would take action, formal action on it, and have it in the record. there was a resolution in December of 2019, which was Resolution 1449. The applicant just needed something for his financing. He needed an attachment to that resolution showing the schedule of pilot payments and revenues. So all this is right now is we're looking for a new resolution today to amend the resolution of 1449, just to add the attachment to that resolution.
Okay.
As an aside, we have been told that this is a project that will probably go forward in 2021.
Correct.
This
We need a motion to amend the final resolution?
No, it's not a final resolution, it's a preliminary resolution.
Preliminary resolution.
Yes.
So yes, Mr. Chairman, we do need a resolution for that. This is Kevin Powell, so I'll make that motion.
You need a second?
Yes.
Okay, further discussion?
Okay, again, Mr. Chairman, I said yes to your question.
Yeah.
Thought there was a question. Didn't get the second.
We didn't get a second?
Correct.
Yeah, this is Tom. I'll second it.
Tom Lewis, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. And
But
further
I'm
discussion?
Yeah, I don't need a roll call unless there's discussion.
Okay.
on this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Jack, can we suspend the financial report for now? Unless there's something earth-shattering that we need to know?
Yes, we can suspend.
Okay. SCDC, final draft of the Camoin study.
I don't know if Dennis is on the call. Dennis, are you here? Mr. Chairman, we have a final draft, which all members of the committee, with Scott and I met with Camoin, and do have a final draft, and that's ready. At this point, all we're looking for is to schedule a presentation by Camoin at our next meeting. So if we have a meeting in September, may look to them as doing a presentation of the rail study at that meeting.
Okay.
and again, this is Scott. That study, folks, is part of your invitation on your calendar. It's called the final report, the Moreau Rail Study. It's right there in the invitation to this meeting today. So if you haven't seen it already, just that's where the document is.
Okay. On the Prosperity Partnership request for financing, supplementary financing for the study, Mike Tui, could you research this and give us an opinion as to what the IDA can and cannot do in terms of financing any outside activity such as these studies, and send us a memo to all the members so that we have a better understanding as to what we can do?
I can answer the question right now. If you want me to put it in writing, I will. And Jim Carminucci and I have already researched this. We do not believe that we are authorized to take our money and give it to another agency to create this study. We could be lead agent for something like this, but we do not believe that we have the authority to give our money away for these kinds of purposes.
Okay. Really? The ask, which wasn't indicated, they were asking us to participate in the tune of $81,000 for our participation in the study. So, just to let everybody know where we're coming from on this.
Yeah, Mike Mooney here.
Comments from anybody?
Yes, I have a comment on that. It's my understanding that the test is that it directly relates to our mission, which is industrial development, and I think that kind of does. But yeah,
I'd like to see, following up on what Mike Mooney just said, this is Pat. I'd like to see, a memo like in some support, maybe an argument, Mike Tui, that it is allowable. I'd like to take a look at what authority you have for and against. And we might be able to be a little creative with how we approach that if it's for that purposes of Luther Forest development.
Okay, Mike, could you give us a little bit more detail as to what the thought process is that you and Jim has come up with in terms of the ID recording?
I will present a memo to that effect.
Thank you. Let's see. Status of projects.
We can forget that.
Okay. Any other business come before the board?
I do have one thing just to add for the benefit of, for Pat Green and for Walter. If you guys go back into your minutes of June 11th of 2018, so if you pull your past minutes up and look at those, in that meeting is when the IDA did its sixth amendment to that agreement, and you'll see a discussion in there. Not to take place of what will be forthcoming, but to give you the background today if you want to go into that and look at that. So again, it's June 11th of 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a copy of that. I have a copy. I can send it out and deliver. But there is a lengthy discussion of the amendment that we had with Luther Forest at that time. Any other business come before the agency?
No, just one thing. Hang on, one thing. Yes, I do have something, Rod. Regarding the grants, we have not discussed the priority order of the grants. I would propose something first in, first out, something like that to keep it simple on all the board members. But any other thoughts quickly? And I know we're trying to get done here.
That's a good point. And what I'd like to do, once we get the final draft of the cover letter and the application, I will then, I'm going to ask all members if they want to serve on the committee, on the loan committee, the grant committee, to have the first look at the application and they come before the board. So I'll be back in touch with everybody on an individual basis.
It's my understanding that this has to be done in an actual meeting.
That is correct. Yeah, we would do that for sure. Yes, all applications have got to be. But I think the preliminary application, well, we could discuss.
Well, you can't throw one out. Yeah. Okay.
The application could come in and we could prioritize the application, and then then have to come and be approved of by the entire board. Yes, we understand that.
Sure, but a criteria of prioritizing them should be established, or just a concept.
Yeah, Mike. Mike, I think first in, first out is
I
fine.
think we can develop a list, and I think we can develop a list of first in, first out. You know, kind of a spreadsheet with all the requests that we get. So I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah.
And we'll provide
Okay.
those applications to all board members, and then you guys can just make the decisions on that basis. First in, first out.
Okay. Any other business come before the board? If not, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Make that
adjourn.
motion.
Kevin, thanks for taking time out of your vacation time. Thank you for participating.
Thank you, guys. Take care, everybody.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Bye.